Defendant got you pregnant and now refuses to do anything for your 2-month-old daughter, Journey. Prove that he is Journey's father. You say you are 100% certain you are not her child's biological father.
When pain, doubt, and lost years collide, only truth has the power to heal. 3 families, 3 stories, 1 question that can change everything. Who is the father? In the world of paternity court, truth isn't just a verdict, it's a lifeline. Every test, every confession, every tear is a collision between past mistakes and future hopes. And when the stakes are bloodlines, even a whisper of doubt can divide hearts that were meant to beat as one. This is the story of men who question life itself, women who carried both love and accusation, and children searching for answers to the most primal question of all: where do I truly come from? The courtroom becomes a mirror for humanity, raw, unfiltered, and deeply vulnerable. Behind every name is a story of broken trust, impossible choices, and fragile reconciliation. Some walk in hopping for absolution. Others come prepared for war. But in the end, only DNA can speak with absolute certainty. It begins with a mother desperate for support. She stands before the judge with trembling hands, her voice cracking under the weight of survival. Her daughter, just 2 months old, depends on her for everything: milk, warmth, and hope. But the man she names as the father refuses to believe. His heart is armored by suspicion, his mind by denial. He insists he cannot be the father. He clings to that conviction as if the truth might undo him. She accuses him of abandoning his child, leaving her to struggle alone in poverty, even resorting to theft to provide diapers and formula. Her story is one of hardship, of a young mother cornered by circumstance. But his defense paints a different picture, one of distance, confusion, and mistrust. He claims she moved away, that she surrounded herself with too many friends, that her timelines never added up. 2 people once entangled by passion now stand worlds apart, their connection reduced to evidence and dates. As their stories unfold, it's clear this isn't just about one child, it's about validation, pride, and pain that runs much deeper than parenthood. He insists he tried. He sends small amounts when he can. She calls him a liar. Their voices rise, but behind every argument is fear: fear of being wrong, fear of being used, fear of being forgotten. The judge listens, her voice calm yet firm, cutting through the noise with empathy and order. She knows these stories well. She has seen love decay into bitterness and seen truth restore what lies once destroyed. Her courtroom is not just a place of law, it's a sanctuary for lost families. The moment of truth arrives. The DNA results are in. The air turns heavy. The man's face tightens, his eyes darting from the envelope to the floor. The woman clutches her hands, whispering silent prayers. The room holds its breath. And then, the words that change everything. He is the father. Shock, relief, tears, gratitude. The emotions blur together as the weight of uncertainty finally lifts. The man exhales, humbled and shaken. He admits he is scared but happy. The woman smiles through tears, hopeful that maybe now their child will have the father she deserves. The judge nods, reminding him that fear is human, but so is responsibility. And just as one story finds its resolution, another begins. A man in his 40s takes the stand, burdened by a lifetime of doubt. For 22 years, he has questioned whether a young man carrying his name is truly his son. He owes thousands in child support, yet deep within, he clings to a painful memory, a childhood accident that nearly destroyed his ability to have children. A bicycle crash, a torn body, and a doctor's haunting words: "You may never have children." Those words became his shield and his curse. The woman he once loved insists there is no doubt. She claims he is the father, and that all his excuses are built on old pain and misplaced pride. But he cannot silence the echo of that accident. The fear that his body betrayed him has defined his life. Their relationship, brief and chaotic, ended in heartbreak and confusion. He remembers catching her with another man, finding photos he claims prove her betrayal. She calls him a liar, a coward hiding behind fiction. They speak over one another, each word sharper than the last, until the judge intervenes, reminding them that this isn't about revenge. It's about truth. For the son at the center of it all, the courtroom is more than a stage. It's the answer to 23 years of wondering why his father was absent. His voice shakes as he speaks, describing the pain of growing up in stadiums where other children's fathers cheered, while his seat stayed empty. He has lived his whole life believing this man was his father. Now, for the first time, he hears the man's doubts spoken aloud. He asks the question every abandoned child secretly asks: why did you wait 22 years? The father cannot answer without breaking. His voice cracks under the weight of regret. He admits he doubted because he was told he might never reproduce. He feared believing in something that biology could take away. But now, face to face with the young man who carries his name, he trembles between hope and guilt. When the envelope is opened, time stops. The DNA results are read aloud, and in that single moment, decades of doubt dissolve. He is the father. The son exhales in disbelief, eyes glistening. The man who spent half his life afraid of the truth finally finds peace in it. They embrace, a moment both raw and redemptive. Years of silence are replaced by one word that finally carries meaning: Dad. The courtroom applauds softly, but the applause isn't for victory, it's for healing. For the first time in decades, father and son look at each other without shame or anger, only recognition. But truth doesn't always bring reunion. Sometimes it brings heartbreak. In the third case, a woman walks into the courtroom carrying not just a file of evidence, but a lifetime of unanswered questions. For 35 years, she has wondered who her real father is. Her mother's stories have changed over time, first one man, then another, then a secret about a stillborn child that may never have existed. The woman grew up haunted by uncertainty. Every reflection in the mirror was a question: whose eyes are these? Whose smile do I carry? She was told lies, half-truths, and stories that shifted with every passing year. The only thing consistent was confusion. When she turns 16, a woman shows up at her door, an ex of the man she suspects to be her father. The woman accuses her of being the child who came between them. The shock is overwhelming. She confronts her mother, who denies everything. Years later, their paths cross again, this time in church, as neighbors. The man lives next door, and though she feels an invisible pull, she cannot bring herself to ask the question. Her mother claims he's not the father. He insists he never even knew she was pregnant. But the daughter has lived with whispers, resemblances, and coincidences too powerful to ignore. She's tired of the secrets. She needs closure, even if the truth hurts. Her letter to the court is a cry from the soul. In it, she speaks not of anger but of longing, the simple desire to know who she is, to belong to someone real. She asks questions every child deserves to have answered. Whose blood runs through me? Who would have been proud of me? When she reads her words, the courtroom falls silent. Even the man she suspects of being her father can't hold back tears. He admits that though he doubts, he hopes she is his daughter. It's a moment of fragile humanity, two people bound by uncertainty but connected by compassion. The test results are read. The truth lands like a whisper and a thunderclap all at once. He is not her father. Shock ripples through the room, followed by silence, the kind of silence that feels heavier than any scream. The woman breaks down, caught between relief and grief. After decades of wondering, she finally has an answer, but it's not the one she hoped for. The man, moved by her pain, tells her that she will always be like a daughter to him. Even without DNA, he claims her with love. And just like that, 3 lives, 3 verdicts, and 3 different endings, yet all connected by the same unyielding pursuit of truth. For some, DNA builds bridges. For others, it closes doors. But in every story, it proves one thing beyond question: truth does not destroy, it reveals. In the aftermath of the DNA results, the courtroom empties, but the echoes of those moments remain: the cries, the confessions, the quiet words of forgiveness that never make it into the transcripts. The truth has spoken, yet its consequences have only begun to unfold. For Miss Brown, motherhood now feels heavier and lighter all at once. Lighter because the uncertainty is gone. He is the father. But heavier because the road ahead will not be easy. She has spent months begging for help, calling in desperation, stealing out of hunger. Now she stands on the edge of a new chapter, one where the father she accused must learn to be the father he denied. And for Mr. Jones, the verdict is both a burden and a blessing. He looks into the mirror and sees not guilt, but responsibility staring back. The truth stripped away his defenses, forcing him to confront what he ran from: the child who bears his features, the woman he left behind, and the life he now must share. Fear still lingers, but beneath it, something stronger begins to grow: the faint spark of paternal instinct. He cannot erase the past, but for the first time, he seems willing to build something beyond it. The court becomes a place of quiet reconciliation, not through words but through acknowledgement. The judge reminds him gently that courage is not the absence of fear, it is the choice to act despite it. And so, one truth closes with a fragile promise: a child will no longer grow up wondering where her father is. But not every truth brings peace so easily. In another corner of that same courtroom, a man named Doris faces a ghost from his past, a boy who has become a man, carrying his name but not his certainty. For 22 years, Doris lived with a fracture inside him, half love, half disbelief. He held his son once and felt the weight of a future he didn't fully believe belonged to him. His love was hesitant, his doubt persistent, and over time, that doubt hardened into distance. All because of one childhood moment, one bike accident that changed everything. A metal pole, a broken body, 37 days in a hospital bed. He was told his injuries could make fatherhood impossible. Those words carved deep into his identity, shaping every choice that followed. To him, every love afterward carried the same question: what if I can't give life? So when a woman told him she was pregnant, the first thing he felt wasn't joy, it was fear. Their relationship was short, their breakup messy. She accused him of abandonment, he accused her of betrayal. Both were right in their own ways. But while she moved on, raising a child she believed was his, he stayed trapped in the memory of that hospital room, the diagnosis that became his alibi against life. 2 decades passed and the silence grew louder. Then, one day, a Facebook message reopened the wound. A rumor, a name, a claim from another man who said the son was his. For Doris, it was confirmation of everything he feared. For the mother, it was an insult that reignited years of resentment. And for their grown son, it was the final confusion, to hear that the man he loved, the man who named him, might not be his father at all. When they meet again in court, the years of distance collapse into minutes of confrontation. Pain that has fermented for decades bursts open. The mother insists she told the truth from the start. The father insists he was lied to. The son stands in the middle, carrying the weight of both. And then, as DNA reveals what words could not, the truth shatters every wall they built. The man who feared he was broken discovers he was whole all along. He is, in fact, the father. Tears fall not from relief but from release. The doubt that haunted him for 22 years dissolves in a single sentence. His son, now a man, steps forward, not with anger but with compassion. The hug that follows is more than reconciliation. It is rebirth. A moment of raw honesty between two men who finally see each other, not as enemies of the past, but as family bound by truth. The courtroom witnesses many things that day: denial, anger, confession. But this moment is something different. It's grace. A reminder that even broken stories can end in healing. Yet, as one family mends, another story in the same room takes a different turn. Bobby Lindsay's search for her father is not a legal case, it's a lifelong ache. For her, the question, "Who is my father?" is not about child support or custody, it's about identity. For 35 years, she's lived in the shadow of confusion. Her mother's version of the past has changed too many times to believe. Each time Bobby thought she found the truth, it slipped away like mist. Her journey to court is not an act of accusation, it's an act of survival. She needs to know who she is before the years steal the chance to ask. Her mother, composed but defensive, repeats what she's always said: "He's not your father." But the daughter's eyes tell a different story, eyes that have searched faces for decades, looking for reflections that make sense. She remembers being 16 when a stranger arrived at her door, a woman who accused her of being the child that came between her and the man next door. At first, Bobby laughed off the accusation, but something about it lodged deep in her heart. Years later, that same man reappears as her neighbor, her mother's friend, and the silent possibility she never stopped wondering about. They share holidays, conversations, moments of warmth that feel almost familial. He greets her children like a grandfather, not out of obligation, but out of something unspoken, maybe guilt, maybe love, maybe both. But behind every kind word lies a question neither has the courage to ask aloud. Are we family by blood or by choice? The day she finally asks is the day her childhood ends for good. The court becomes her confessional. She reads a letter written from the heart, a letter not to the judge but to the man she's never known, to the identity she's never had. Her words are filled with longing, regret, and the quiet anger of a life spent waiting. She doesn't accuse. She simply wonders. Why didn't anyone tell her? Why did she have to grow up without answers? Why did the truth feel like something she had to earn? The man listens, silent but trembling. He says he doesn't believe she is his daughter, but admits he hopes she might be. Hope, not denial. A rare kind of honesty that carries both love and caution. Her mother watches, her face unreadable. Years of guilt and self-protection have made her heart a fortress. Even now, with evidence on the table and her daughter in tears, she insists she's telling the truth. She believes it, or needs to. Because if she's wrong, then her entire story, her entire life has been a lie. And so the envelope opens. Inside it lies the answer Bobby has chased her entire life. The words are final. He is not her father. The sound of that verdict is softer than she imagined, no thunder, no gasps, just a quiet breaking of something invisible inside her. The truth doesn't bring her peace, only clarity. She sits in stillness, processing a lifetime of stories that never matched. And though she came seeking her father, she leaves knowing something deeper, that the need for belonging is universal, but sometimes it must begin within oneself. The man, moved by her tears, reaches across the invisible wall between them. He tells her that blood may not bind them, but love can. He tells her that her children can still call him Grandpa. He tells her that truth may not always give us what we want, but it gives us what we need. And for the first time, Bobby smiles, not because she's found her father, but because she's found closure. Across these three stories of Miss Brown's fight for support, of Mr. Doris's redemption, and of Bobby's lifelong search for belonging, the courtroom becomes something more than a stage for paternity battles. It becomes a sacred space where lies dissolve, where fear turns to honesty, and where the human heart stands bare before truth. Each case begins the same way: accusation, denial, defense. But it always ends in the same silence, the silence that comes after truth. Some walk out holding hands, some leave in tears, some simply walk away lighter than they arrived. But none leave unchanged. The DNA test, in all its scientific precision, becomes something almost spiritual, a key unlocking not just ancestry, but redemption. It exposes deceit, yes, but it also reveals love that survived confusion, love that waited decades for permission to exist. For those who hear these stories, they become reminders that behind every argument about fatherhood lies a deeper question. What makes a family? Is it biology, or is it the courage to stay, to love, to claim one another even when the past is fractured? For Miss Brown and her child, it's a beginning. For Mr. Doris and his son, it's a reunion. For Bobby, it's an ending that finally lets her rest. And through them all, the courtroom, that cold place of law, transforms into something warmer, a home for lost truths, a sanctuary for the human spirit, and a reminder that sometimes the hardest question to face is not, am I the father? But who am I when the truth arrives? When the gavel falls for the final time, what lingers is not the echo of judgment, it's the sound of lives shifting beneath the weight of truth. The walls of the courtroom have heard everything: anger, betrayal, regret, and forgiveness. But as the day ends and the lights dim, what remains is something far quieter: acceptance. For some, that acceptance feels like victory, for others like surrender, but for all, it is the beginning of peace. The stories of these families are not merely episodes of conflict, they are fragments of human experience, each one revealing the delicate threads that tie identity to love and love to truth. Beneath every accusation lies a story of longing. Beneath every denial, a story of fear. And beneath every DNA result, a story of someone just wanting to belong. Truth in its purest form is not a weapon, it's a mirror. And when people stand before it stripped of excuses and pride, they don't just find answers, they find themselves. Miss Brown now holds her daughter with a different kind of strength. She no longer carries the uncertainty that once haunted her. Her eyes still bear the exhaustion of single motherhood, but within them glows something steadier: hope. She knows the journey ahead will test her, but she also knows her child will grow up knowing where she came from. That small certainty, after months of pleading and despair, feels like a victory greater than any verdict. For Mr. Jones, fatherhood is no longer an abstract possibility. It is a calling. The paper once sealed in that envelope did more than prove his paternity. It rewrote the story he told himself about who he was. He no longer hides behind excuses or geography. The truth has tethered him to a responsibility that both terrifies and transforms him. His journey is not over, it has just begun. In another life, far from the noise of this case, a man named Doris breathes freely for the first time in years. His past has always been a wound disguised as memory, a childhood accident that convinced him he was broken, unworthy, incomplete. That belief shaped how he loved, how he left, and how he doubted. But the DNA test did something the doctors never could: it healed him. He is a father, not because a court declared it, but because a son, long neglected, met him halfway with forgiveness. For 22 years, doubt lived where love should have been. But now, in the wake of truth, love finally returns, older, humbler, and more honest. Their story becomes a testament to the resilience of family. The son who once cried alone on the basketball court now walks beside his father with pride. The man who once feared his own body's failure now embraces the proof of its strength. And in their reunion, something eternal is restored, not just fatherhood, but faith in life itself. But for Bobby Lindsay, faith takes a different shape. Her truth does not arrive as comfort, but as clarity. For her, the DNA test was never about confirming what she already knew. It was about confronting what she feared to admit. The possibility that her life had been built on stories meant to protect her, not inform her. The results were cruel in their simplicity. He is not your father. Those words could have shattered her completely, yet instead they set her free. For the first time, she understands that her worth is not tied to a name, a face, or a strand of DNA. The truth she sought in others she now begins to seek within herself. The man she hoped was her father may not share her blood, but he gave her something almost as rare: kindness. His promise to remain in her life, even without obligation, becomes proof that love does not always require lineage. Sometimes it only requires humanity. And though the test ended one search, it began another, the search for her own identity beyond biology. She leaves the courtroom not with the father she imagined, but with the woman she's becoming, strong, whole, and ready to write her own story. The mother, too, faces her reckoning. For decades, she carried secrets like armor, convinced that protecting the past was the only way to survive it. But secrets grow heavy with time. When they finally break, what they reveal is not shame, but fragility. Her lies were not born of cruelty, but of fear. Fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear that truth would undo everything she tried to build. Yet, when the truth arrived, it didn't destroy her, it simply exposed her humanity. In the judge's quiet voice, in the collective silence of the courtroom, she saw something unexpected: compassion. And perhaps, for the first time, she realized that truth is not the enemy of survival. It's the foundation of peace. The beauty of these stories lies not in their verdicts, but in their evolution. The DNA test, a marvel of modern science, becomes the catalyst for something ancient and sacred: reconciliation. It cuts through deception, yet it also opens doors to empathy. It reminds each person that being right is not the same as being whole, and that sometimes the path to healing runs through humility. Paternity Court in these moments transcends the boundaries of law and entertainment. It becomes a human archive, a space where tears are not weakness, but evidence of truth finding its way to the surface. Each case, unique in its details, shares a common thread: the pursuit of belonging. And that pursuit, messy, painful, unrelenting, is what binds us all. Whether it's a mother begging for help, a father trapped by old wounds, or a daughter searching for her roots, every heart in that room beats to the same rhythm. The need to be seen, the need to be believed, the need to know we matter. In the eyes of the judge, the courtroom is not a battlefield, it's a bridge. One that connects people who have spent years lost in misunderstanding. Some cross it together, some walk alone, but all must take that step into the unknown. And when they do, the transformation is almost spiritual. Miss Brown, once desperate and cornered, finds dignity in her truth. She no longer pleads for acknowledgement, she receives it. Her child's future no longer feels uncertain. The man who denied her is now part of her daughter's story, not as a ghost, but as a father. It may not erase the struggle, but it gives her something even stronger than victory: justice with grace. Mr. Doris, who spent his life defined by injury, finally finds healing not in medicine, but in truth. His reunion with his son is living proof that time may wound, but truth restores. The embrace they share becomes symbolic of what this courtroom stands for: the idea that forgiveness is not weakness, but the highest form of strength. And Bobby, who entered the courtroom with 35 years of longing, leaves with something subtler: understanding. Her story doesn't end in reunion or revelation, but in release. The absence of an answer becomes its own kind of peace. 3 verdicts, 3 truths, 3 transformations. Each one a reflection of how fragile and how strong the human spirit can be. When the courtroom finally empties, the air feels different. Not lighter, not heavier, just real. The walls that once echoed with accusation now hum quietly with closure. The stories told here will linger long after the cameras stop rolling, because they are not just episodes of television. They are windows into what it means to be human. In every DNA test there is science, but in every verdict there is soul. And perhaps that's what makes these moments unforgettable. They remind us that truth, no matter how painful, is never the enemy. Lies build walls, but truth builds bridges. Lies divide families, but truth, even when it hurts, gives them the chance to begin again. These families, broken yet brave, show us that love is not perfect. It's not always patient. It doesn't always arrive in time, but it endures. It survives betrayal, distance, and decades of silence. It outlives denial and thrives on honesty. Because love, real love, is not about who shares your blood, but who stands with you when the truth is revealed. And so, when the final words are spoken and the judge declares court adjourned, it is not the end. It is the quiet start of something new, a chance for each of them to write the next chapter without lies, without masks, without fear. A mother finally sleeps without crying herself to exhaustion. A father finally looks at his son without shame. A daughter finally looks in the mirror and knows she is enough. The lights fade, the cameras stop, the audience moves on, but the truth remains. And in that truth lives the essence of every story ever told in that courtroom. Stories not about winning or losing, but about finding the courage to face ourselves. Because in the end, the greatest verdict is not spoken by the judge. It is whispered by the heart that finally says, "I know who I am,